Hi everyone, welcome to week 3 of Junior Cycle Higher Level. We're going to be going through factorising this week, and I'm just going to write out the subtopics we're going to be dealing with. So the first thing we're going to be dealing with is highest common factor. Now I know we've dealt with this before, but we're going to be going into it in more detail. So the highest common factor. The second thing we're going to be dealing with this week is going to be factorising by grouping. And it's really important as well that you're able to pick out which one of these types of factorising it is from the exam paper. And the third one is difference of two squares. And again, we've met this before, but we'll just be doing a bit of revision and going back over it. So the difference of two squares. And then finally, we have quadratic trinomials. So quadratic trinomials. So they're kind of the 4 different groups we have when we're talking about factorising. And as I said, it's really important that you're able to pick out which one it is when you're given a question on an exam paper. So we'll start with the highest common factor. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here just to illustrate HCF. Okay, so the first example I'm going to give here, and this is the way it would be written, is to find the highest common factor of the HCF. So find the HCF of 4x squared and 12x. So the first thing that you need to do there is pick out what's common to both 4x squared and 12x. So we have 4x squared and we have 12x. So I always look at the number first, okay? So is there any number that goes into both 4 and 12? So the answer is 4, because 4 goes into both 4 and 12. So we can pull out 4 anyway. And then we look at the letters. We've x squared here, and we've only 1x here. I'm just going to show you a trick. I usually write out 4x squared as 4 by x. And if I write out 12 by x, so you can see quite clearly there's only one x that's in common with both. So I'm going to pull out the x. Now, check here. What multiplied by 4x gives me 4x squared? And the answer is x. What multiplied by 4x gives me 12x? And it's going to be 3. So the answer there, if the highest common factor, so the highest common factor that's common to both 4x squared and 12x, the answer is 4x there, because that was the bit that you pulled out. That was the bit that was common to both 4x squared and 12x. I'm going to give another example there just to illustrate that again. And this is going to be find the HCF, so find the highest common factor of 2ab plus 3a. Okay, so again, let's look at, you have 2ab and you have 3a. So I'm going to write both of those out. So you have 2ab and you have 3a. So is there any number that will divide into both of them? Well, no, there isn't. 2 and 3, nothing goes into both 2 and 3, so we can't do anything with numbers. Is there any letter that's common? Yes, there is. A, you've got A in the 2ab, and you've got A in the 3a. So I'm going to pull out A and write my brackets there. Now, what multiplied by A gives me 2ab? The answer is 2b. And what multiplied by A gives me 3a? Well, if A is out here, we put 3 in here. Okay, so the HCF in that case, so what's the highest common factor common to both of those terms is A. And that's the answer to example 2. Okay, we're going to go and do another example now. So example 3. So this is going to be factorise 6x minus 10xy plus 2x squared by finding the HCF of each term. So that means that you need to find a factor that's common to all 3 terms here. Okay, so I'm going to write those 3 terms out. So we have 6x, we have minus 10xy, and we have a 2x squared. So let's look at the number first. Is there any number that goes into 6, 10, and 2? So the answer there is going to be 2, because 2 will go into all of those. Let's look at the letters. We have an x here, we have an x here, now we have x squared here, so I'll just do my trick here again. So 6x, you leave it like that, 10xy, and then 2x squared can be written like this, 2 by x by x. So look again and see the letters. We have an x here, we have an x here, and we also have one x here. So I can pull out x there because that's common to all three. So now I can write my brackets in. So 2x multiplied by what gives me 6x? It's going to be 3. And I'm going to put a minus here because there's a minus here. Okay, what multiplied by 2x gives me 10xy? Well, 2x is out here. So 2 by 5 gives me 10, so it's going to be 5y. And just double check that. Is 2x multiplied by minus 5y minus 10xy? Yes, it is. And then finally, what multiplied by 2x gives me 2x squared? Well, you have the 2x out here, so you're just going to put the x in there. It's going to be plus x. That's it factorised. Now, to double check that you're right, you could actually multiply all of this out. And I'm going to just do that in a different colour just to show you. Okay, so 2x by 3 gives me 6x. 2x by minus 5y gives me minus 10xy. And then finally, 2x by x gives me 2x squared. So now just double check. Is this the same line as up here? Yes, it is, which means that you're correct. So that's it for highest common factor and factorising. So you know now how to get the HCF. You always pull out what's common to the terms. You look for the numbers first and then the letters. So we're going to go on to factorising by grouping now. Okay, so usually when you're factorising by grouping, you have 4 terms. And I'm going to explain this using an example. So the first example, and the question will be to factorise. So factorise fully. And you're given 3p plus 3q plus kp plus kq. So you're asked to factorise fully those terms, okay? So now when we're factorising by grouping, we usually put 2 terms together. So I'm going to group these together and I'm going to group these together. Now the reason I'm grouping both of those together is because both of these have a 3 and both of these have a k. Sometimes you'll have to rearrange them, but in this case, I'm going to just try and see, does this work? So these first sets of terms here, we're going to see what's common to both of these, and the answer is 3. So I'm going to pull out 3 and write in my brackets. What multiplied by 3 gives me 3p? The answer is p, so p goes in here. And I'm putting a plus there because there's a plus here. 3 multiplied by what gives me 3q? The answer is going to be q. Now again, you could check that. 3 by p gives me 3p, 3 by q gives me 3q, so that's right. So now we're on to this pair. So we need to see what's common to these two, and the answer is k, so we have a k here and a k there. So I'm going to pull out k. And again, I'm keeping it positive because there's a plus in front of both of them. So I'm going to write in my brackets. Now what multiplied by k gives me kp? The answer is p. And then what multiplied by k gives me kq. So you have k here. What multiplied by k inside the brackets gives me kq. The answer is q. Now you'll notice at this point that you have the same terms in both brackets, and that's what you want. If you have the same terms, and they have to have the same signs as well, if you have the same terms in both sets of brackets, that means that you're doing it right. There's one final step. And the final step is to put 3 plus k in one set of brackets. And then the other set of brackets is going to be p plus q. And again, if you were to multiply all of that out, you would get this, and that's how you'd know you're right. So we'll do another example of that, so factorising by grouping. So put example 2 up. Okay, so this time it's going to be 2ac, so again, factorise fully. So it's going to be 2ac plus 2ad plus bc plus bd. So the same idea, again, you're going to group pairs together. I'm going to group these two together and these two together. Now it mightn't necessarily work, but we're going to just try it and see. So is there anything that's common to these two? So the number 2 and the letter A, because you've got the number 2 and the letter A here, and you have the number 2 and the letter A here. So I'm going to pull out 2A. Now what multiplied by 2A gives me 2AC? It's going to be C, because 2A by C gives me 2AC. And then finally, 2A by what here gives me 2AD, and it's going to be D. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the second group. What's common here? So the letter B. So that's the only thing that's common. So I'm going to pull out B. So what multiplied by B gives me BC? The answer is C. And what multiplied by B gives me BD? The answer is D. And you'll notice again, you have the same terms in this set of brackets as you do in this set, which is good. It means that you're doing it right. Final step then is to open up your two sets of brackets, and 2A plus B is going to go in one set, and C plus D in the other. And that's it for example 2. I'm going to give a trickier example now. So example 3. And again, the question is to factorise fully. And the example is 2x squared minus 3xy plus 2ax minus 3ay. So this time I'm going to rearrange them, and the reason I'm choosing to rearrange them, because although you have one term that's common to both of these, if you look closely, you've 2x here and a 2x there, so they'd be probably more likely to go together. And then here you have a 3y and you have a 3y here. So I'm just going to rearrange them so that they're beside each other. So I'm going to put 2x squared plus 2ax minus 3xy minus 3ay. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to group those two together and those two together. So the first group there, what's common? So we can pull out 2 anyway. And then you'll see there we've x squared, so there's 2 x's there and there's an x here. So we've one x that's common to both. So I'm going to pull out x. What multiplied by 2x gives me 2x squared. So 2x by x is going to go there to give me 2x squared. And then what multiplied by 2x gives me 2ax. So it's going to be a that goes there. Okay, so now we're on to the second group. So let's have a look here. We have a minus 3 here and a minus 3 here, so I can pull out minus 3. We have we've no x that's common, but we have a y that's common here. So y is here and y is here. So I'm going to pull out the y and open up my set of brackets. So what multiplied by minus 3y gives me minus 3xy? The answer is x. And then here, what multiplied by minus 3y gives me minus 3ay. Now I'm just going to write in the a first, because we're going to decide what sign goes with it. Be careful here. You need that to be a minus 3ay. You already have a minus out here. So if you multiply minus 3y by a, you get minus 3ay. So what sign should we put in front of that? If I put a minus in front of that, minus by minus would give me plus. And that's not what you want. You want a minus. So if I put a plus there, minus by plus gives me a minus. So we know that we're right. And you'll see you've x plus a and x plus a, which means that you're right. Final step, open up your two sets of brackets. It's going to be 2x minus 3y in one set and x plus a in the other. So that's it for factorising by grouping. We're going to move on to the next section now on the next slide. Okay, so we're on to the third type now, which is the difference of two squares. So there's a general formula for the difference of two squares, and it's a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b by a minus b. So you're looking for a general formula where you have something squared take away something else squared. So I'm going to give an example there. So example 1. And again, we touched on this in one of the previous lessons, but we're going to go into more detail on it now. So the first example here is if you have, and you're going to be asked to factorise again. So that's the way your question will be phrased. So to factorise x squared minus 9. Okay, now you should be able to tell from that 9 is a root. So the root of 9 is 3. Okay, so 3 squared gives you 9. So you can rewrite 9 as 3 squared. So I'm going to rewrite it. X squared take away 3 squared. And now you see I have it in this format. Something squared take away something squared. So now what you do is you open up two sets of brackets and you've x squared, which means you've x by x. So you're going to put x in the first bracket, x in the second bracket. You have 3 squared as well. So you're going to put 3 in the first bracket, 3 in the second bracket. And the rule is plus goes with one, minus goes with the other. And that's it factorised. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples there. And in the exam, it won't tell you that it's the difference of two squares. You have to be able to recognize that yourself, okay? So in that case, you just need to know that your different numbers, so like the likes of 9, 49, 64, 81, all those numbers, they all, you can get the root of them and then you can convert it to something squared. So another one here, I'm going to write down y squared take away 49. Now you should recognise that 49, the root of 49 gives you 7. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that. It's going to be y squared take away 7 squared. So now we can apply our rules. So open up your brackets, y in the first, y in the second, 7 in the first, 7 in the second, plus with one, minus with the other. Okay, I'm going to go into a trickier one now, one that it can cause mistakes just because there's a 1 involved. So I'm going to show you. So 4y squared minus 1. Now, I'm going to write a little rule up here. 1 squared is 1. Okay, so just remember that. 1 squared gives you 1. So I'm going to rewrite it. So 4y squared minus 1. So can we write this in the form of something squared take away something squared? Now you need to be careful here because 4 is also, you can get the root of 4, which is 2. So if I rewrite 4y squared as 2y in brackets and square that, doesn't 2y squared give me 4y squared? It does. Okay, so I can rewrite this as well 1. So 1 squared is 1. So instead of writing 1, I can write 1 squared. So now you see you have something squared take away something else squared. So you open up your brackets. You put 2y in the first, 2y in the second. You put 1 in the first, 1 in the second. You put plus with 1, minus with the other. And that's it solved. So we'll do one more example of the difference of two squares. So we'll go on to example 4. And I'm going to give you another hard one just as a higher level question. This one is going to be 9x squared take away 1. Okay, so let's recognise here that you can also write 9 as the root of 3, and then 3 squared gives you 9. So we can rewrite 9x squared like so. We can put 3x in brackets and square it. If you square 3, you get 9. If you square x, you get x squared. And again, 1 squared gives you 1. So I can rewrite it as 3x squared minus 1 squared. Open up your brackets. 3x in the first, 3x in the second. 1 in the first, 1 in the second. Plus with 1, minus with the other. So that's it for difference of two squares. We are on to quadratic trinomials now. Okay, so we're on to quadratic trinomials now. And again, we touched on this in one of the previous lessons, but we're going to go into more detail. So quadratic trinomials, they always take the format ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so you need to remember that that's the format it takes, whereby you have an x squared term, you have a number attached to an x term, and then a constant, so it's just a number. So again, you will be asked in the question to factorize. So I'm going to give an example here. So example 1, and you're going to be asked to factorize. So you're going to be asked to factorize x squared plus 3x plus 2. Okay, so the way we do this is we look at the constant term, the constant being the number on its own. And we're going to write out all the pairs of factors, so everything that divides into 2. Okay, so we're going to circle 2 and write out the factors of 2. So 2 by 1, they're actually the only factors of 2. Okay, so now what we need to do is check. When you have 2 and 1, do they either add or subtract to give you the middle number, which is 3? Okay, so I'm going to write down, so it needs to equal 3. And you look at the sign in front of it, it's a plus. So your factors need to either add or subtract to give you the middle number. So you have a 2 and you have a 1. And you need to check what signs need to go. It needs to be a plus 3 because there's a plus there. So if we put a plus in front of both of those numbers, it gives you a 3. So now what we do is we open up our brackets. We put x in the first, x in the second. And what we do is put plus 2 in the first. That's going to go in here. And we're going to put plus 1 in the second. And that's the answer. So I'm going to give another example there. So example 2. Okay, so example 2 is going to be factorize x squared plus 6x plus 9. So same idea, we're going to circle the constant and we're going to write out all the factors of 9. So 9 by 1, 3 by 3. So we don't have any other pairs of factors for 9. So now we need to look at the middle number. So the middle number is 6. So which one of these will either add or subtract to give you 6? So 9 plus 1 is 10, 9 minus 1 is 8, so that's not going to work. 3 plus 3 will give you 6. Okay, so we're going to write, we have a 3 and we have a 3, and it needs to give you a plus 6. So you need to decide what signs are going to go in front of the 3's, so a plus goes in front of both of them. So then we're going to open up our brackets. We're going to put x in the first, x in the second, and we're going to put plus 3 with the first and plus 3 with the second. And that's it factorised. We're going to go on to example 3 now. So again, you're going to be asked to factorise x squared plus 12x plus 27. Okay, so same idea, you're going to circle 27, write out all the factors of 27 that you can think of. So 27 by 1, 9 by 3. Now I can see already that 9 and 3, they're going to add to give me 12. So that's the pair of factors I can go for. Okay, so we need a 12, we need a plus 12 because there's a plus in front of the 12 here. And I'm going to go with 9 and 3 and just check the signs. So you need a plus 12. So if I put a plus in front of the 9 and a plus in front of the 3, I'll get plus 12. So plus 9 plus 3. Next step is to open up your brackets. You're going to put x in the first, x in the second, and you're putting plus 9 with one and plus 3 with the other. And that's it solved. So we're going to do one more example of that. And the final one, again, will be asked to factorise. It's going to be x squared plus 14x plus 49. And again, you're going to circle the constant term, which is 49. So you're going to circle 49, you're going to write out all the factors of 49. Now, remember you need to either add or subtract to give you the middle number, which is 14. So 49 by 1, that's not going to work. What about 7 by 7? That will work. So 7 plus 7 gives you 14. So we have a 7, we have a 7, and it needs to give you a plus 14. So if I put a plus in front of both 7's, it will give me plus 14. So I'm going to open up my brackets. I'm going to put x in the first, x in the second, and looking above, it's plus 7 and plus 7. And that's it, solved. So I'm going to do a couple of exam questions now based on what we're after doing. Okay, so I've pulled an exam question from the exam papers. So factorise fully each of the following expressions. So looking at 5x plus 10. So we can't, it's not difference of two squares. It's not a quadratic trinomial because you don't have 3 terms. Now, is there anything that's common to 5x and 10? So let's look at the number. Does anything divide into both 5 and 10? And the answer is 5. So I'm going to pull out 5. What multiplied by 5 gives me 5x? The answer is x. So x is going to go in here. And then what multiplied by 5 gives me 10? So the answer is 2. And that's going to go in there. And that's it solved. This next question is factorising by grouping. So I'm going to put these two together and I'm going to put these two together. So I'm just going to draw that in. So I'm going to put these two together and these two. So what's common to both RC and SC? So it's going to be C. What multiplied by C gives me RC? So it's going to be R. What multiplied by C gives me minus SC? So it's going to be minus S. So now we're going to look at this. So we know that there's a 2 that's common, and we also have a D that's common. So I'm going to pull out 2D. So what multiplied by 2D gives me 2RD? So it's going to be R that goes in there. And what multiplied by 2D gives me minus 2SD. So we've got 2D out here, we need a minus S there. And again, you can see here, we know we're right because we have the same letters in this set of brackets as we do in this set. So we're going to put them into the proper order now. So it's going to be C plus 2D in one set of brackets and R minus S. And that's it solved. The third one, you should be able to recognise that this is the difference of 2 squares. So we can rewrite 16 as 4 squared. So let's rewrite it. So x squared minus 4 squared. And now you'll see it's something squared, take away something else squared. So the rule is we open up our brackets. We're going to put x in the first, x in the second, 4 in the first, 4 in the second, plus with one, minus with the other, and that's it solved. I'm going to do the second part of that question now on the next slide. Okay, so B part 1, factorise x squared minus 5x plus 6. I'm going to write that out. So it's going to be x squared minus 5x plus 6. So this is a quadratic trinomial. I'm going to circle the constant, write down all the factors of 6. So 6 by 1, 3 by 2. Now, you'll notice here, both of these work. If you take away 1 from 6, you get 5. If you add 3 and 2, you also get 5. I am going to go with 3 and 2. Now, you can go with 6 and 1 either, and one of them will work, but I'm going to go with 3 and 2. Okay, so I have a 3 and I have a 2. And I need to add or subtract to give me the middle number, which is minus 5. So I need to decide now what signs are going to go in front of 3 and 2. Well, it's going to be minus because minus 3 minus 2 gives me minus 5. So now I'm going to open up my brackets. I'm going to put x in the first, x in the second. So minus 3 in the first and minus 2 in the second. So that's it factorised. Now for part 2, and I touched on this briefly in week 2, using your answer, solve the equation x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Now we're after factorising it, so I'm going to, instead of putting in x squared minus 5x plus 6, I'm going to put in x minus 3 by x minus 2 equals 0. So x minus 3 by x minus 2 equals 0. And the way you do this is I'm going to do it separately. So I'm going to write down x minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0. So what we want to do here, when it says solve, you want to get a value for x. Okay, so how do I get rid of the 3 here? I want to get x on its own. So the way I'd get rid of a 3 there would be, so it's minus 3. If I added 3 on this side, I would get rid of it. So I'm adding 3 on this side, I need to add 3 on this side. So it's going to be x minus 3 plus 3 is equal to 0 plus 3. So that will give me 0. So x is equal to 0 plus 3, which is 3. So that's one solution. I'm going to do the same now with x minus 2 equals 0. So how do I get rid of the minus 2? I need to make it a 0. So minus 2, if I added 2, I'd get 0. So if I add 2 to this side, I need to add 2 to this side. So it's going to be x minus 2 plus 2 is equal to 0 plus 2. So that's going to be x, so minus 2 plus 2 is 0, is equal to, so 0 plus 2 gives you 2. So now I have two solutions. Now, this part of the question, verify. So verify means prove that one of these answers is correct. So verify one of your answers from part 2. So I'm going to go with x is 3. Okay, so I'm going to pick x is 3. And what I need to do to verify, I'm going to write out the equation again. So x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. So what I'm going to do now is anywhere I see x, I'm going to put in 3. Okay? And when I do that, if I do this side, the left-hand side of the equation out, if it's true, it should equal 0. Okay, so x squared, I'm going to put in 3 squared, minus 5 by 3, because x is 3, plus 6. So we want to see, does that equal 0? So 3 squared is 9. 5 by 3 is 15, so minus 15 plus 6. So let's just double check. So 9 take away 15 is going to give you minus 6. Minus 6 plus 6 does equal 0. So that's verified. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. That's kind of just going back over the factorising. What I'd advise you do, you'll be up as far as midterm now from the Maths Tutor website. So I'd go back over the last 3 lessons and see you're able to do exam questions and just make sure that you're understanding the material. And I will see you after midterm.